Hello, how are you guys doing today? I'm here to talk about higher ed, and as you probably know, higher education is going through a lot of profound changes, economically, politically, and technologically. There are great changes happening out there. It's ironic that the university helped create the internet, but today we're struggling to keep up with Google and Apple. Many of the habits and the forms that we use feel outdated, and yet there's a real opportunity to change things. The projects that we assign, the shapes of our classrooms, even the structure of the university, these things are all open to change. But changing our everyday habits and forms while still keeping a high-quality education and learning environment, that is what's known as a wicked problem. How do we do it? Well, in the 19th century, higher education helped to democratize literacy. We taught kids, girls and boys, rich and poor, how to read and write. Now what we need to do is to democratize digitality, and that is to bring digital media designs to everyone. Now, I define digitality as the global reinscription of oral, literate, visual, and numerate archives into network databases, or the internet. And alongside that, the accompanying changes in how societies are formed, the definition of individual identity, and really our ontological worldview. What's our orientation to the world? Now, I believe that I would want to help make media and design as ubiquitous, as commonplace as reading and writing. And so to democratize digitality, I want to try to democratize design. Now, DesignLab is an innovative digital composition center that focuses on conceptual and aesthetic concerns with the new media projects you're creating for classes. We don't offer any courses ourselves. We're like a writing center for new media projects. You can come in and make 20-minute appointments. Now, our means for democratizing digitality is something that we call smart media. Smart media include things like TED Talks, theory comics, and also video essays. Smart media are emerging scholarly genres that are supplementing the traditional genres of books and articles. And what they do is they're introducing new ways to make arguments, new ways to present evidence, and new ways to connect to different audiences. Now, what I want to do is think about smart media in terms of two different kinds of thinking machines, the ideation machine and the spectacle machine. And if you know your Plato, you'll know that he opposed ideas and logic, or eidos and logos, to the myths and stories of the Homeric tradition. According to Plato, Homer involved getting people enchanted through something called mimesis. It was a kind of drug or pharmacon, he said, that kind of stunned people. And yet he battled it with an even stronger drug or pharmacon, which he called dialectics, or we would call it scientific method. For Plato, Homer could only produce doxa, or common knowledge, whereas dialectics method would produce true epistemic knowledge. Now, these are the foundations of our university and really of Western culture. But throughout our history, we've also used this opposition to think about the West's relationships to its other. And the history of colonialism is a battle over this. We go out and demythologize folks and bring them into Western society. It also affects our relationship with the university to popular culture. Now, as I mentioned, smart media is a mashup of ideation and spectacle. It's conceptual and effective. It is rigorous, but also very playful. Now, let me show you some examples here. I'm going to start by showing you a graduate research paper that was created by Steele Wagstaff. He wrote on John Cage, who was an avant-garde musician, composer. Now, I want you to look at the form of this. Can anyone see the form? How many of you have produced things like this? It's 8.5 by 11 white paper. That's black 12-point font and 1-inch margins. It's hard to get Word to produce anything but that. Now, what I had Steele do, and the other folks in the class, was to remediate or to translate their traditional essay into a graphic essay. And I taught them Photoshop and InDesign. I want you to look at what happens. Now, this is the same content, but you'll notice very quickly there's a new image or evidence track here. Images. We've got photos. We've got diagrams. We also have color and different font. The text is broken up so you have multiple voices, not just one voices. And it creates a non-linear experience of reading. So what we have in moving from the traditional essay just to a graphic essay, this thing really looks like a zine, is a different experience of knowledge and a different experience of learning. So this is an example of smart media. I then had the students remediate their graphic essay into a video essay. Now watch what happens and listen.
What is the meaning of silence? Most definitions of silence describe it as a kind of emptiness or stillness characterized by the absence of sound, of events without any oral track. The word is derived from sileo, to be still or silent.
Sound experience, which I prefer to all others, is the experience of silence.
And somebody else's sounds are a lot worse to live with than one's own.
Now what I really love about this second remediation is that it introduces yet another evidence track, that of sound. And for a composer, this is really the evidence track that we should be working in. So what smart media does allows you to make new kinds of arguments, use new kind of evidence, and connect to new kinds of audiences. Now I guess you guys are probably all wondering, where is this DesignLab? We are located in College Library on the second floor. This is the Computer and Media Center, and 500,000 non-unique users walk past DesignLab every day. That's us right in the middle. You see those cubicles, and behind that are two media studios where faculty are teaching multimedia courses. If you're interested, you can go to the Digital Studies site. There's a certificate here, and look into that. Now, DesignLab is transdisciplinary. We have 8 TAs, and they come from 8 different departments. We're sort of like a clinic out in front of our science. Now, we leverage the domain knowledges from these different disciplines and then teach folks emerging media design and consultancy practices. Stepping back, DesignLab is involved in many cross-campus initiatives, but most important is the Wisconsin idea. The idea that what we do serves the people of the state, both locally and nationally. And if you think about what happens to the Wisconsin idea in the 21st century, well, I think smart media is a key part of that. So let me talk now about some of the design frames that we've come up with, because faculty, professors are really good at marking papers, but we're kind of lost when we're presented with images and text and games. So in my research, I've come up with 2 design frames, both to analyze and create smart media. The first I call CAT, and it stands for Conceptual, Aesthetic, and Technical. Conceptual really is the argumentative, or if you like, the expressive content of any work in front of you. The aesthetic has to do, what are the images or the sounds or the words that are conveying that content? And the technical part is, what are the tools, what are the software that created that aesthetic experience? Okay? Now this is a formal model, and you can use it to look at just about any work in front of you. The second model, though, turns and pivots and looks at the audience. And this is known as the UX model, or the user experience model. Here we're interested in the experience design of the overall work. You could say TED Talks have a certain experience design. That's why they're so popular. They also have information architecture. How is that experience structured in time and space? And finally, information design. That's the look and feel of each individual moment. Now, CAT and UX are kind of like glasses. You can put them on and look at the world around you. The next time you go into a museum, what is that experience? How does it start? How is that exhibition shaped? How do I leave? All right? Now, the challenge in democratizing digitality is teaching these frames not only to faculty, but to students. This is sort of like the grammar of new media. I'd like to close by showing you works from a freshman class I teach called Stories, Maps, and Media, Designing Wisconsin Experiences. And the purpose of this class is to try to get students working with archival materials in new 21st century forms. and in particular, to work with some signature Wisconsin experiences or historical events, and then connect them to the now. So the experiences that we sometimes look at, up in the top left, you can see that is the pail and shovel, the anarchist political student government that came in the late 70s. In the top right, that's Charles McCarthy. He's in the Legislative Reference Library. This represents the Wisconsin idea. In the lower left, you see a representation of the Black Hawk War of 1832, which was actually a massacre. And in the middle, you see an image of the early Earth Day days here in Wisconsin. The background, you'll notice, is a map of southern Wisconsin, and these are the effigy mounds that stretch across southern Wisconsin. So these are 5 topics that our students sometimes work with, and what they do is they go into the Historical Society and start working with archivists. And here they're doing traditional archival research, looking at posters and pamphlets and other materials from the topics that they are working on. So traditional connecting with archival past. Now, to make smart media, we have to move this archival material into the classroom through databases. So what students do, they bring it into the class, and here what they're doing is they're creating a serious game using ARIS, Augmented Reality Interactive Storytelling, which is a game platform that was created right here at UW-Madison. And what you do is you take historical events and you put them on a map, and then you create encounters. Here the students are coming into the lecture hall to present their game to the entire class. Now what I'd like to do now is show a brief clip from this game. It's called Salvation of the Mounds. 4 students worked in the archive, and then they composed time-traveling encounters, okay? You travel not only through space, but also in time. So you'll see they connect with a pre-Columbian Indian, a contemporary Native American scholar, early settlers. All right, I'm going to play a little bit of this.
Okay, so as you start out the game, you read a little introduction about it, and then the first thing to pop up is Aaron Birdbear, who is the local scholar on the mounds, and that gives you some background information on the game that you're going to be playing. Then your first quest is to visit the Native Americans, but before that begins, you watch a little video about nature to kind of get you in the spirit of preserving nature and preserving the things around us. So then you're sent back to the year 980, and you have to travel to Observatory Drive to speak with the Native Americans. And in order to gain the knowledge about the effigy mounds that you need to trade tobacco with them, which is a common form of trust building.
I'm going to stop it right there. So what's really interesting about these ARIS games is they allow students to create these time-traveling events and put different historical perspectives in conversation with one another. So they're really learning about how history is made and how it can be transformed. Again, I see smart media as sort of interfaces connecting data and communities, all right? These are the interfaces. If you like, connecting the past to the present. Now, looking into the future, DesignLab thinks smart media is really important for addressing 21st century problems. Digitality is changing the way we think about communities, changing the way we think about individual identity, and changing, really, our ontological view of the world. So, this is DesignLab. We are democratizing digitality by democratizing design. I encourage you all to build your own websites, and if you have your own website, it's great to have some killer content on it. If you'd like to find out more, visit designlab.wisc.edu. If you'd like to know more about me and my research, visit labster8.net. Thank you very much.